Alrighty, so news of the week episode from the hotel as I'm still down here in Southern California after attending the Coachella Valley Invitational earlier this morning and even into the afternoon. And by the way, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day. My Valentine's Day was definitely watching two of my favorite team playing in the Coachella Valley Invitational, and both of these teams that involved in two different games had a bit of a mixed result. And if you want to find more about that, I already did a recap in terms so talk about those two games that the Quakes play against the Timbers in the first game of the Coachella Valley Invitational for today. And then I also did the recap on that same video, talk about Minnesota United versus the Chicago Fire. That actually was the last game of the day for that Coachella Valley Invitational for this Valentine's Day. But another thing I also want to mention is that since I don't have a board right now, I'm basically just going to kind of do podcast style in terms of reading these notes from my phone. But the first news we're going to talk about is Inter Miami. So, oh boy, it looks like it's happening again where it looks like Inter Miami is in trouble once again with the roster rules. So, this was reported from Tom Bogert that it seems like Inter Miami need to acquire more allocation money or they need to shred the roster in order to comply with the MLS rule. And this is after we heard the rumor of them signing a young Argentine by the name of Federico Redondo, and it seems like the signing is about $8 million. And obviously, a lot of people have been asking, how in the world does Inter Miami still have enough money to sign the player, especially of how they pretty much maxed out on the whole DP contract situation. And I think they've also mentioned that there is still a U22 initiative spot that they can use, and I think that was the spot that they, of course, used. But in terms of how the salary it goes, it looks like with them adding Federico Redondo, it seems like it's gonna be over the limit and over the cap that what Inter Miami need to do in terms of following this roster rule, and that again, I feel like everybody said that it was too good to be true that this signing will happen, and especially people are asking the fact that how in the world does Inter Miami still comply with these rules? And well, it turns out that they can't because of the whole situation. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they're gonna do. I'm assuming they're gonna have to shred some of their roster. They've already mentioned that one name that they're potentially going to let go just to stay under the cap is John Thornton, or actually no, not John Corton. I got the name backwards. It's Corrington John in terms of the player that they're looking to let go. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see will that be enough for them to keep the after getting the new player in and keep within the roster rule of MLS, because as we said before, Inter Miami has done this one time where they broke the roster rule after decided to sign Blaise Matuidi as a max 10 player, even though technically his contract doesn't qualify for that. It should be a DP player, and Inter Miami got found out, and they were punished harshly because of that. And it got so bad that the main GM Paul McDonough actually had to force to resign, and that the Miles brother actually had to be fined for a certain amount of money because of breaching the MLS roster rule. Now, moving on into the next news, and now talk about some signings. So, DC United, they have officially acquired Tampa Bay Rowdies defender Connor Antley. Now, from what I heard, at least from Rowdies fans, they've said that he's a very good player, and they're going to miss him no longer with this team. So, looks like they, of course, got a decent defender DC United, but again, it's a little bit skeptical because USL Championship defender. It's going to be interesting to see how they go, and I've always said before how the level between USL Championship and MLS is still a pretty big gap, and it will be interesting to see whether or not I'm assuming he's probably not going to be a starter. He's probably just going to use more depth for more depth signing, but it could be a decent depth signing, at least from what I heard from Rowdies fans say that he's a very good player. And then this is also a news that I mentioned it before, but I'm pretty much going to officially mention it now, and that of course is the Chicago Fire has officially acquired Kellen Acosta. So again, we knew this was going to happen, and it finally happened, and it pretty much now fits the missing puzzle for this team, which is the number 8 spot. And by the way, as I'm already talked about in the recap earlier of my time today at the Coachella Valley Invitational. I saw the Chicago Fire play, and let me say, they look really, really good. Now, again, part of that is mainly because Minnesota was definitely playing below part, but it's also part of the fact that they look really solid on the attacking end. And this is where I'm just thinking this has to be the year that they finally end this curse of not making the playoffs. They have all the pieces that they need to compete for the playoffs, and it'll be interesting to see whether they can do so. And then Charlotte FC have announced that they have signed midfielder Jabri Diana from SM Kinds. And again, apologies in advance that I completely butchered the name. And from what I heard, it seems like this is the Derek Jones replacement. Of course, they lost Derek Jones this offseason, and we'll see how he's going to do because Derek Jones was very good with Charlotte FC, and it's going to be a bit of a shoes to fill for him to now be walking into that spot. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and unfortunately now we got to talk about injuries news, and this is kind of the worst time to talk about it because we are actually at the time of this recording just 1 week away from the first game of the season between Inter Miami and Real Salt Lake. So Nelson Quinones, he's done for the season after he suffered a knee injury. They didn't mention exactly what knee injury it is, but he's done for the season, and that is a devastating blow for the Houston Dynamo because we know the attack of this Dynamo team of how they already lost Corey Bear to FC Cincinnati, and now it seems like from what I heard, Hector Herrera could be out for an extended time, at least in the beginning of the season, and that's also a big blow too, considering he's the maestro in terms of that attack, and the fact that they have not really made any reinforcements to address this issue, and now that Nelson Quinones is out for the season, this is looking grim for the Houston Dynamo, and I mentioned it in the season preview too. I mean, after a great season that they had last year and then winning a trophy as well, it is very surprising to see that they decided not to follow this up. Though, if you're a Dynamo fan, and if you're especially a longtime Dynamo fan, you're probably not surprised because that's kind of how it is with the ownership of the Dynamo, where they show some ambition at least in the last off season, but I guess maybe they said that that's too much ambition. We need to keep it down to a point where we basically are doing nothing in terms of trying to improve the roster. And then Marvin Lorea, he's going to be out long term with a knee injury as well. Now, they didn't mention it's a season ending injury, but yeah, that's another major setback for Marvin Lorea. I mean, this is a guy that has been suffering so many injuries throughout his career, and this is another one of those, and that it's also just kind of already the beginning of the Timbers having problem with injuries. I mean, this is a team that last season I mentioned pretty much was cursed because of injury. And although this is not really a big blow because Marvin Lorea is more used for a depth piece, I do feel bad for him mainly because he's been suffering so much injuries. He's been having a lot of setbacks to a point where, if he continues to suffer these injuries, he might be just think about retirement because of the way that he's just been missing so much time with the Portland Timbers. And then the LA Galaxy, their center back Jalen Neal is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks to begin the season after undergoing sports hernia surgery. So that's another devastating injuries in a way where, well, at least it's not season ending, but it's definitely going to hurt this LA Galaxy backline. I mean, again, we talk about the Galaxy backline being, last season it got a little bit better, but we'll see whether or not if it will be the case this season. And losing Jalen Neal, who was a huge part of that back line last season and probably will be heading into this season, that's going to be a bit of a setback for them in terms of the defensive or the defensive front. Now, moving on in terms of the next news. So Charlotte, they are rumored to be in advanced talk to sign Uruguayan youth international Luciano Rodriguez. I believe he's a central attacking midfielder, which means that this most likely is the replacement for Karol Świderski. Again, Charlotte, after losing their two Polish DP, they need to make some signing to replace them, and it seems like they're trying to do so, and we'll see how this signing is going to do. And especially, this is a guy that, from what I heard, play a big part in the U20 World Cup to a point where he was kind of considered to be the hero of the U20 World Cup, especially in that World Cup final that Uruguay actually won last year. So it seems like Charlotte could get a really decent player, and we'll see whether they can get this over the line. And then FC Cincinnati, they are in advanced talk to sign Argentine winger Lucas Orlando. From what I heard, he's also a very decent player as well. So we'll see if FC Cincinnati can get this over the line. And then the LA Galaxy is report to set to add gank attacking midfielder Joseph Pencil. So obviously the number 10 spot is one area that the Galaxy does have weakness. And before you say, no, Ricky Puig is not a number 9. He's more of a number 8 and more of a deep line playmaker, but they need to have another pieces in terms of the guy that's pulling the string besides Ricky Puig, or at least kind of put pressure off of him. And this guy could potentially be the guy to do so. And we'll see how much exactly the Galaxy is going to try to offer. And then Austin FC, they are report to sign Toulouse fullback Mikhail Deslet. They're also report to finalize a deal to get free agent Brendan Hines-Ike. Now, in terms of the Toulouse fullback Mikhail Deslet, that's kind of an interesting signing because I didn't think fullback is an area that Austin really need. But one area that they definitely need is on the defensive end. And, getting Brendan Hines-Ike will definitely do that. He's more of a depth signing and more of a utility player doing his time with DC United. But still, I think with the way that Austin are just so thin at the back right now, they need to have a guy like that. And that, yeah, basically, basically getting, if they can get that over the line, it's definitely going to help their depth situation in terms of the back line. Now, moving on in terms of talk about news that's not related to transfer reports and signings. So FC Dallas and Benfica, they have announced a youth development partnership, and this is not a big surprise because two of these teams has considered to be the best academy within their region. I mean, Benfica, their academy has always been great. They produce a lot of well-known kind of player, and it's always a club that a young player like to go because they know what to do with them, and eventually we're able to sell them off and get them to a bigger club in the future. And then FC Dallas, we know Dallas has probably the best academy in MLS right now and for a very long time. I mean, I know other academy like the Union and the Red Bulls would like to have a word with that, but Dallas has produced so much great player to a point where when you look at the U.S. men's national team, literally half of them came from the FC Dallas academy, and that it's great to see that two great academy is going to join in a development partnership that will really strengthen the development between both Dallas and also Benfica. And then the last news that I'm going to talk about, and yes, this is a relatively short news of the week episode because there actually isn't really a lot of news that has happened in the past couple of days. And this is not a big surprise because as we get closer to the regular season, which is going to be next week, we're not going to see as much signing as we've seen before. And that, when I do my News of the Week episode on Saturday, that's probably going to be the last News of the Week episode I'm going to do on Saturday before we get into the off season again, because Saturday are usually the day for me to spend time to watch games. But the U.S. men's national team have announced that they are going to be returning to FedEx Field in D.C. to face against Colombia in a preparation for Copa America. Now, obviously, one thing I'm really hoping out of that game is please no injuries, because FedEx Field is literally one of the worst place to play, not just soccer in general, but just football in general because of how bad the turf is. And when I mean turf, I meant it's the grass turf that they had. It's one that, if you want to talk about a stadium that always tends to be cursed in terms of having players suffering torn ACL, it's that stadium, FedEx Field, and also MetLife Stadium. But MetLife is mainly known for the artificial turf, whereas FedEx Field just have a terrible grass pitch. So obviously, it's a very surprising kind of venue for the U.S. to choose. I mean, for me, I feel like they could have just chose Audi Field instead, but knowing the fact that this is a friendly against Colombia, most likely that means that they need a bigger stadium, and that's not because of the fact that there's going to be more U.S. fans there. It's probably going to be because there's going to be more Colombia fans, and that, again, I don't know, that's kind of a good thing for a tune-up for a Copa America match. I mean, you want to have your home fans backing you before the Copa America tournament begins. But yeah, we'll just hope that there's no injuries, and hope that that turf at FedEx Field will hold up, because if on that day, if it doesn't hold up, it could be a bit of a problem. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if there's any news I didn't mention after doing this video, let me know in the comments as well. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.